There is something comforting about a calendar. Dates feel solid. They feel dependable. You can point to them. You can plan around them. And you can tell yourself you're prepared. In the garden, calendars feel like certainty. Plant on this date. Do that 2 weeks later. Feed here. Harvest there. It all looks organised. It all looks sensible. And yet, calendars are one of the quietest ways gardeners disconnect themselves from what their gardens are actually doing. This video is about why that happens. Calendars do not become popular in gardening because they are wrong. They become popular because they reduce the anxiety. They give you something to hold on to when the garden feels unpredictable. They replace uncertainty with structure. They make it feel like an experience has been condensed into a set of instructions. For new gardeners, calendars feel like guidance. For experienced gardeners, they feel like confirmation. Either way, they create confidence. The problem is that confidence is often misplaced. A calendar is built around averages. Average last frost date, average soil warming, average growth speed, and average season length. Gardens don't grow in averages. They grow in real conditions, on real ground, in real time. Spring is where that difference becomes obvious. If gardens worked the way people expect, gardens would behave more consistently. You would plant on a date and see predictable results. You would follow a schedule and get repeatable outcomes. Experience would reduce surprises. That's not what happens. Even after decades, spring still catches people out. Not because the calendar changed, because the garden did. This issue is not that calendars are useless. The issue is what gardeners assume they represent. Most people treat calendars as signals from the garden. They are not. They are signals from history. A calendar tells you what usually happened, somewhere, at some point, under a certain set of conditions. It does not tell you that it's happening right now. It does not know how wet your soil is. It does not know how compacted your beds are. It does not know how much organic matter actually broke down over winter. And it does not know how exposed your site is to wind or how sheltered it is from cold nights. It certainly does not know what last season did to your soil. Yet gardeners treat calendar dates as instructions rather than suggestions. That's where false confidence can creep in. Spring makes this very obvious quickly. You plant because the date says you can. Not because the soil says it's ready. You feed because the schedule says it's time. Not because the plants are asking for it. You water because the plant says so. Not because the soil has dried out evenly. At first, everything looks fine. Then the disconnect starts to show. This is why calendars work best early. Early growth is forgiving. Seeds germinate using stored energy, young plants tolerate inconsistency, and stress does not show itself immediately. The calendar feels accurate because nothing has challenged it yet. But spring progresses, and the garden stops responding to the instructions and starts responding to all of these conditions. That's when calendars begin to mislead. Most spring problems are not caused by doing the wrong thing. They're caused by doing the right thing at the wrong time. Calendars are very good at encouraging that mistake. Take planting dates. 2 gardeners plant the same crop on the same date. One garden thrives and the other garden struggles. The calendar did not change. The soil did. One soil warmed quickly. The other stayed cold. One drained freely and the other held moisture just long enough to stress the roots. The calendar told both gardeners the same thing. The garden told them different stories. This is why gardeners often feel confused rather than wrong. They followed the advice. They hit the dates. They did what they were supposed to do. And yet, the outcome feels off. That confusion erodes trust. Some blame themselves, some blame the weather, and some abandon their plan entirely. Very few blame the calendar. Calendars also flatten experience. They make different seasons look the same. Last spring might not be warm and dry. This spring, cold and slow. The calendar does not care. It repeats the instruction regardless. That repetition trains gardeners to ignore the variation. And variation is where the important information lives. This is especially dangerous for experienced gardeners. Experience often gets translated into tighter scheduling. You think, I know roughly when this happens. I can plan around it. That works until it doesn't, because experience tells you what often happened, not what is happening right now. Calendars reinforce that gap. There is also a psychological side to this. Calendars feel authoritative. They look official. They feel external. They reduce doubt because they shift responsibility. If something goes wrong, you followed the calendar. You did your part. That makes calendars very attractive. But it also makes them easy to trust beyond their usefulness. The quiet danger of calendars is not that they give you bad advice. It is that they stop you asking questions. Is the soil warm enough? Is it drying evenly? Are roots exploring or stalling? Is growth driven by conditions or momentum? Calendars don't encourage observation. They encourage compliance. This is why calendars create confidence early and frustration later. They help you feel organized at the exact moment you need to be responsive. Spring rewards responsiveness. Calendars reward obedience. And those two things drift apart very, very quickly. At some point in spring, every gardener reaches a moment where the calendar says one thing and the garden says another. That moment matters. If you trust the calendar, you push through. If you trust the garden, you pause. One leads to corrections later, the other prevents the problem from forming. This is where many gardeners unknowingly train themselves out of listening. They learn to override what they see because the date says otherwise. Over time, that weakens intuition rather than strengthening it. Calendars become louder than the garden. This is also where planning begins to feel fragile. You did everything on time. You stayed organized. You followed the schedule. And still, things felt out of sync. That disconnect makes gardeners feel like spring is chaotic. It isn't. It is just a variable. The problem is not time. The problem is timing. Calendars track time. Gardens respond to timing. Those are related, but they're not the same. Timing is conditional. It depends on temperature, moisture, biology, and momentum. And calendars ignore all of that. They assume consistency where none exists. This is why the most resilient gardeners use calendars differently. They use them as reminders, not instructions. They let the calendar prompt observation, not replace it. The calendar asks the question, the garden gives the answer. That distinction matters. This is also why rigid calendars collapse fastest in spring. The more tightly scheduled the plan, the less room it has to absorb the variation. Spring always introduces variation. Always. This brings us back to why I keep mentioning GrowTrack in this series. Not because it replaces calendars, but because it reframes what confidence should be built on. Calendars store dates, gardens store history. What happened last season? What matters more than what the calendar says this week? What stressed the soil? What stalled growth? What recovered slowly? And what surged unexpectedly? That context shapes spring far more than any date ever will. GrowTrack exists to hold that content, to carry forward what your garden has already told you, instead of resetting your understanding every year and relying on averages. It is not about telling you when to act, it's about helping you understand why you're acting. This video is not about throwing calendars away. Calendars have a place, but their role is smaller than most gardeners think. They are guides, not authorities. They support awareness. They should never replace it. If there is one idea to take from this video, it is this. Calendars feel confident because they're stable. Gardens are successful because they're responsive. Spring exposes the difference. In the next video, we will talk about winter planning, why it feels productive, why it rewards effort rather than accuracy, and why so much work done in winter quietly unravels once growth begins. For now, remember this: when the calendar and the garden disagree, the garden is not wrong. It is telling you something the calendar never could. I'm Tony O'Neill and this is Simplified Gardening, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.